and just get them into growing and help people to get their wee journey on the go, as we kept saying last week about your little growing journey, and we're very keen to help you with that. So both Sharon and myself very passionate about growing and helping others get into it as well. So and again, just very quickly to recap on the objectives for Thurso Grows, very much is to look at things like local food sourcing, to reduce food miles, to look at seasonal sort of foods, and to help people with composting, and all of this, of course, with an aim to helping to reduce the impact that we have on the planet, on the environment. So that's very much where Thurso Grows remit comes from, and we are, of course, Climate Challenge funded. For those of you who don't know, that's why we asked you to fill out the Survey Monkeys, because that's how we prove that we've been doing our job, basically. So so that's the angle that we are coming from. So last week we spoke a little bit about some of the basic considerations that we need to make with regards to our growing and what we want to grow and where we're going to grow. And it is available, if you didn't catch it, it is available on both our YouTube and our Facebook channel. So if you haven't watched it, then you're most welcome to go and watch it. And pop any questions that you've got on there as well, and Sharon and I will pick them up. So that's already up and on. What we're going to do this week is just have a wee look at some tools and techniques. So Sharon and I are going to take you through our favourite tools, the ones that we use, well, certainly just about every single day we're out in the garden. So these are things that we've come to love and use on a daily basis. So we're going to show you that. We're going to just show a little bit on what you kind of need to help you grow as well. And then a little look at some seed sizes, going into the actual seeds themselves, and just showing you the variation that you can get in seeds. So a wee look at that as well, a little fun fact for you coming up on that one as well. We had a wee fun fact last week. So seed sizes, we're hoping to show a video which was actually recorded, what year are we in now? 2021. I think it was November of last year, can't remember. But it was a wee video that I did just in the shed at the community gardens on how to sow seeds. Now, we've had a little bit of issue with sound quality on that this morning, so what we might just do is show the video and I'll just do a wee commentary over the top of what I was talking about, because we're not entirely sure if the volume's going to work too well on that. So there's a wee video coming up of me just sowing some seeds in a tray and also in a pot. And then we've got a little bit on companion planting. That was one of the things that we were asked to do last week. So Sharon's got a very short, small PowerPoint for us on companion planting. And then what we're going to do after that? Oh, I've forgotten that. Oh, we're on questions and answers after that. So note to self, Jill, don't print out the lesson plan too small so that you can't see it when you look down. So yeah, we'll finish off with a wee question and answer session at the end again. So hopefully that all makes sense. And I can see the chats going here already on composting. So if you've got any questions and things, Sharon will be monitoring the chat. Pop your questions on there and we'll get going. So everybody happy so far? Yeah. Good. Thumbs up. Good stuff. Good to see everybody. So what we're going to start off with then, our favourite tools and the things that we use the most, the favourite things that we have. So am I going first again, Sharon? Cool. I'm going to show you number one item for me. Okay, so hopefully, gosh, I've got so much stuff on the desk this morning, it's absolutely full. Hopefully you can all see this is my number one item, okay? So this is actually given to me as a gift and is one of the best things that I've been able to get for my garden. It's actually just a 5-year diary. Now, why do I like this so much? Being of a slightly older age than Sharon, my memory is not always brilliant, okay? And I was a complete beginner. I am very much one of these people who learns things by doing, but also who learns things by writing. So if I write things down, then I tend to remember what I'm doing and what I've also planted as well, more importantly. So all of the things that I've bought, if I just take you to my back page here and hopefully you can see this. This is one of the back pages in the notes section. I zoom in slightly. Everything that I've bought in terms of the garden plants and shrubs, I've written in the back so that I don't forget their names and so that I remember what I've done, which is, this is brilliant for. We've got a full month, yeah, on a sheet there. And this has things like the weather conditions for that week. We have any plants that were in bloom that week. We have any tasks that I want to do. And then we have just notes down the bottom. So, for example, 15th of May last year, sunny intervals, gentle breeze, stronger winds, temperatures are up to more average for May, plus 13, 10 mile an hour winds. We've got delphiniums are getting big, azaleas, lots of buds. We've got transplanted cucumbers, butternut squash and everything, tomatoes, tatties planted out, lettuce, and then some of my notes at the bottom, gale force winds due in Saturday the 23rd. So I can go to that year and know what the weather was like for that year. I can also go and, for example, I was looking at my daffodils the other day. I've got some lovely paper white daffodils that are just in a little container pot to sit at the front door. Now, I was thinking to myself the other day, these daffodils should be through by now. I haven't seen them at all, poke their wee heads through. They should be through by now. What did I do? I go to my diary, I check through my diary for this time last year, and then I find that they didn't come through this time last year at all. They came through near enough in the middle of February. So I'm too early. So it's just little things like that. It just helps you to, I would say particularly for beginners, it just helps you to keep a track on things and get a wee feel for things, and use it just to write down notes and keep you right. And then you can say, oh yeah, that came through, or that didn't come through, or this has failed, or that's come back. And it just helps you to keep a wee record of things that are happening. I've also got all the cultivars of the vegetables that I've sown in here as well for my little plots. So yeah, that's my first item, and that's my favourite. Okay, so Sharon, you going to show your first one?
I will. I just say that, Jill, I've put a link on there to your diary on Amazon, which is $14.99. But what I've also done is linked that cheaper one that you signposted yesterday when we were talking, which is only sort of £6 or £7. Because I think you got yours as a present, you were saying. So I did. Yeah, although it's a 5-year diary, there's cheaper alternatives out there, and the idea being, right, you're very organised. Right. Are you ready for your hot-aw? Jill and I were practicing yesterday, and she kept going, hot-aw! And I can't see Glenn or Ali's face, but they'll know what I'm going to go on about. This is my Korean hoe. Basically, this has revolutionised my life after gardening for about 10 years. I found this. This is from Bergen & Ball. And it is a left-handed Korean hoe, because I'm left-handed, but right-handed ones are available. I'll put a link to it in the chat. And it's a really great tool. It basically is, you can use it for weeding. So you can like chop into your weeds, and you can pull it along under the surface of your soil really easily as well. And having used a trowel for years and years and years, and I think trowels are absolutely great. This has revolutionised my life, and we've got a couple at the garden, and Jill's got a couple as well. And it's about 20 quid. And I would say, when it comes to tools, my advice is and I'm not very rich at all, is buy something that's good quality, because this is really good quality. There are cheap alternatives out there, but actually the blade on this will last for years and years, and it's just fantastic. You can sharpen the blade as well, so when you're weeding, you can use it for cutting into things. So if you haven't got something and you want something for Christmas, or your birthday's coming up, it's called a Korean hoe, but I've just put the link in, and I think you can see the picture if you have a look at the link. There might be a razor hoe. Yes, it might be a razor hoe, that's true. But yeah, that's a really nifty tip. That's one of my favorites. Back to you, Jill, if you start with the ha-cha.
Ha-cha! So I've also got a Korean hoe, but mine is a right-handed one. So they are available in left and right-handed, as Sharon said. So yeah, these are really good. Again, being of a slightly older age to Sharon, I sometimes have problems with reaching the back of the beds in some of the deeper beds that I've got in my garden, and this is actually brilliant, just to turn it on its end and use it to eke out some of the weeds that way as well, because it can be quite fine tipped right on the end if you're gentle with it. So it just gives you a little bit of an extra reach. So this is my second item as well. I absolutely love this thing. Sharon got them in the garden. She bought them for the gardens, and I used them there with Margaret one day, and it was like, wow, this thing's amazing. So yeah, I got one for my own garden at home too. So that's my second item. I'm going to move swiftly on to my third. And again, this was just a nice wee gift that I got. Mr. B, my partner Andy, is very good to me, it's very good to me. So my last item that I really can't do without in my garden is my little pen knife. So hopefully you can all see that as well. So this is brilliant. Every time I go out in the garden, I use this, whether it's to cut string, or whether it's to take a cutting from something, or nick a bit of bark for something to grow and graft, or whatever it is that we're doing, then that wee knife is really quite handy to have in your kit as well. So yeah, I would recommend something like this as well if you're serious about your gardening too. Then it's just handy to have it in your pocket, and you're not running backwards and forwards all over the place trying to get a pair of scissors or whatever. Okay, so that's my last wee item, is a good wee garden knife, one that's not too big, something that fits in your pocket and is easy carried about. Just don't take it to Tesco's with you, or go through an airport with it. None of us really should be going anywhere at the moment anyway. So I did once travel abroad with my pocket knife in my pocket and completely forgot it was in my pocket, and it wasn't even picked up on the airport scanner. So oopsie, never mind. Okay, how's that? How's that? Happened to me too, Anna. Yeah.
So my next one is, having said, buy a good quality tool and spend 20 is to reuse stuff that you've got about. So actually, really honestly, if you're just getting started with gardening, it shouldn't have to cost you the world to get started, and you don't need any of those tools. Like, we're just gardening for years and full time and just discovering them now. So I wanted to introduce reusing and recycling things. So pots, things like this are absolutely brilliant if you want to use them for planting on seeds and stuff in your first few years, and it's great. It means it keeps it reused. It's hard plastic, and that's like a little yogurt pot. Just put a couple of holes in the bottom of whatever you're using. Something like that is great, because it's the perfect sort of size for things like maybe tomato seeds, starting off cucumbers, courgettes. You can grow, you could even put salads onto this to grow them on before you pot them out if you want them a bit smaller. Something like that's great. Again, as you grow on your squashes, courgettes, cucumbers, tomatoes, pots like that are brilliant. Just always make sure you put holes in the bottom. And this one again, I just discovered this like this year. Having spent loads of years, everyone goes, "Oh, toilet paper rolls are great to grow," and they are great. But I was always just trying to put soil in them, and then the soil was falling out. But what I saw on a YouTube video is that if you squash it and make it into a square, so it's a square, and then you just cut 4 little cuts up here, you can actually make a pot. I don't know why, because I've tried this so many times over the years and never actually thought about just making it into a pot by putting the cups in the bottom. And then whatever you grow in, when you plant it out, you don't need to take it out of this pot. You just plant the whole pot because the cardboard will degrade and the roots will push through. And it's absolutely brilliant. And root disturbance is something that really slows down your plant's progress when they get planted out. A lot of plants suffer from that sort of few days of transition, whereas if you just do that, there'll be no transition. So that was a good one that I discovered this year. Back to you, Jill, for your last one.
Just hold on a wee second. I'm just answering Joanna. I'm not as proficient at this as Sharon is, okay? She's much better at multitasking than I am. Hold on. Joanna, just remember holes in the bottom. There we go. That'll all make sense when you read the chat. So my last one as well, just building on what Sharon said, about reusing things as well. You can reuse pots and that in the garden as well. But if you're eating sandwiches, if you use a lot of sandwich bags and stuff like that, and you're always wondering what to do with them, you can actually use just a very simple sandwich bag like this, almost like a mini propagator. So propagators are brilliant things, and I bought myself a wee propagator, and it is great. I absolutely love it, but they can be quite expensive again. So what you can use, and I still use these as well, what you can use is just imagine you've got your little plant growing in its pot. If you've done a little bit of research on that plant, so last week we said do a bit of research on what it is that you want to grow, whether it's a vegetable or a plant. If you do your research and the research tells you that this plant likes a higher humidity or likes a bit of protection in the top, so in the top growing zone, so in other words, above the soil level, and you can't do that, or maybe it's on a cooler window ledge, then you can use these little bags to go over the top of your pot, like so. You could just secure it with a rubber band or a hairband. I've got loads of old hairbands that have gone a bit too stretchy and they don't hold my hair anymore. So they're brilliant for just going around a pot and holding the little bag onto your pot. And you've just created a mini propagator which keeps the top plant zone happy and warm and with a bit more humidity if that's what it likes. Equally, if you have a plant which prefers bottom heat, I can sympathise, we all like a bit of bottom heat. We do like warm bottoms, don't we? But equally, you could put that bag over the bottom of your pot and have your pot sitting on your window ledge. So again, like so, you can just fold that over and sit it on the bottom. But now effectively, you've created that warmer effect in the root zone because the plant prefers to have a warmer root zone. So these are very cheap, reusable things that you can do to help your plants along and basically create the same effect that a very expensive propagator would. So great little ideas. You can also use things like plastic drinks bottles. That's what I forgot to bring in, Sharon. I knew there was something I forgot this morning, but Sharon's got a wee link there.
I've got the picture up.
Yeah, so you can use these plastic drinks bottles, take the cap off the top, slice the bottoms off from underneath, and you can use them like a mini cloche, what's called a cloche, and that's just a growing term that's used to cover over the whole of the plant while it's outside. So not only does it create its own little microclimate, we spoke about microclimates last week, but it also can help with pest protection. So if you've got pigeons coming down and stealing your brassicas when they're really small, then you can put these old plastic bottles over the top, and it's ideal for that. Okay, so where are we then? Any questions from that so far? Are we quite happy? Yep. All making sense?
Lots of people writing notes.
Yes, yeah, you're all busy
Nice.
scribbling away.
I would just say with the Caithness wins, if you use that plastic bottle cloche, you dig it right in and be mindful. I don't actually use them in my garden because my biggest factor is wind coming through, so use it, but they're absolutely brilliant if you can use them. We use them in the community garden. So Cool. Jill, next one, I think seed sizes. This is where she's going to get her seeds out. Get your seeds out, love.
Yeah, get my seeds out. Get my seeds out. So, anybody know what the biggest seed in the world is? Fun fact. Anybody? No? Don't be shy.
The
biggest
avocado.
Oh, avocado's a good one. Yeah, it's a big seed. Yeah, it's a big seed, but it's not the biggest. It's from a palm tree. And
Coconut.
it's called, oh, nearly, Glenn, nearly. Coco de Mer is a sea coconut. And they are about the size of a very large football. So very, very tough outer coating, of course, to protect it. And they travel down rivers and through the sea, basically, hence the name. So yeah, so these are big, massive, massive seeds. So we kind of go from one extreme to another really with seeds. Seeds come in lots and lots of various different sizes and various different shapes and various different mechanisms to help protect them or have them carried by animals or wind or, you know, the seed dispersal, the way that they do it. Sharon, could you pop me onto share screen just a wee second, please? If you can, because I did have, thank you dear. Hold on a wee second. My computer's just a little bit slower. I'm just gonna minimize that just now. Oh, my little group of people's over the top. I just wanted to show you all this. So bear with me, this will just take a wee minute to load up. It's coming, it's coming. A little bit slow. Come on, preview, wake up. Maybe I should have loaded this first. Right. My computer is a little bit older. There we go. So sometimes when you're using lots of memory, like the Zoom meetings, it just takes a bit longer. Let's open that out just a touch. Can everybody see that okay? Yeah, are we on? Good. So first of all, ignore some of the terms on this, okay? This is some of my notes that I've made for my exams. So just, there we go, that's better.
Oh, Jill, with a wee time check, it's 10:25. It's got about 20 minutes left.
Yeah, just, oh, that's not going to work. Minimize that just now. Right. Can you guys see okay? I can't see you guys at all right now, so I'm just going to keep talking. So here we have a seed. This is very, very basic outlay of a seed we're going to have a quick look at here. So we have this very tough outer shell, which its proper name is the testa, but it's just, think of it as the seed coat. It's its furry coat, like putting a big fur coat on and keeping it safe and protected. In here we have the position of the radicle, which is basically just the root. So the root is going to grow from roughly round about here, the roots that go down into the ground, of course. We have this tiny, tiny, tiny microscopic little hole, and that is very, very important because that allows water in. So when you go to germinate the seed, that allows the water in and allows it to swell up and open up all of the resources that the seed has. In here then, if we look at this one, just very quickly, again, there's the little root development from here, and then you can see that it's kind of split into two halves. This is actually a broad bean seed that I've drawn here, and these are called the cotyledons. Now again, you don't need to remember that name, but try and remember the seed leaves, because seed leaves is important, okay? Moving on, if we just split that in half, that would be the view that you get inside. If you took a knife and cut it right down the middle, then that would be the view that you got. There's the outer seed coat. There are the cotyledons inside, the seed leaves. There's the true leaves of the plant that will grow, the plants and the leaves that you would recognise as whatever your plant was, be it tomato or cucumber. There's the root, and there's that tiny, tiny little hole again. And then again, If I can move it. No, it's not going to let me move it that way. Here we go. There's your baby little plant again, just inside. So those seeds contain everything that that plant needs to grow. Yeah, it's amazing. The food source that's inside these little true leaves in here, the seed leaves in here, and then the baby stem and the baby roots. And that's basically what's inside. Okay, Sharon, do you want to pop me back? Where are you? Oh,
Yeah,
lost everybody.
Just here, you're fine. I'm going to start sharing my screen and I'll start the YouTube video. So
yes, please.
Jill's just going to give us I'm going to start this video but pop it on mute, and Jill's going to talk over the video of what she's doing and how to sow a seed. So just some basics. It's about 3 or 4 minutes long.
Right, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. I've got a problem.
I think I might have a problem too.
Yeah, I have a problem in that it won't let me come off of the screen sharing. Hold on. Right, there we go. Can everybody see?
Yes.
Sharon, can you start that again?
Well, we've only just got to the bit where you're frying your compost, Jill. So you've got your seed compost.
All right, okay, I can see it now.
And you've got your pot out.
Right, so there's a seed tray. What I've done is I've just taken some compost out. I've broken all that compost up because I want to get a little bit of air through it. That is important. You need oxygen through your soil mixture there as well. I've taken out any lumps and clumps and horrible bits that you don't want, so big bits of roots that you sometimes get in it as well. And these composts that we're using, very much try and use peat-free. And if you're sowing seeds at all, if you want to sow seeds for yourself, try and use sterile seed compost. That's why you get it fresh. So you've just seen me there pile it up over the top. You also might have noticed I just kind of tamped it down on the surface of the worktop a little bit. And now all I'm doing is picking up something like a piece of wooden board with a sawing action, just going one way, bringing it back, going the other way. And the reason I'm doing that is just to provide the seeds with a level surface upon which to grow. Yeah, so overfill it and then saw off the extra soil. And then again, just pushing down gently on top of the soil there. That's important too. We've just got a load of oxygen into it, but we do want what's called a little bit of consolidation. And that's just to provide a nice firm surface, because you want your roots to go into a nice firm surface so that they develop fully. Little dibber, making some tiny little seed drills in the top, so not pushing far down into the soil itself. So there's 3 little seed drills, what's called a drill. And that's basically just the position that you're going to sow your seeds into. Now, if you put them in a drill like that, the advantage is then that you know that in that area, when you see something coming through the soil, that is your seed, because you will get wee weeds and things coming through as well, even in a sterile seed soil, seed compost, sorry. So we would just sow our seeds very, very finely. So remember we said last week about beginner errors, one of the things that they do is they oversow, but you would just sow them very, very finely into those little seed drills. I would then water it, and as you've just seen, you stick a label on there as well. Okay, so always label what you're growing. If you've done it right, ta-da, that's what you should end up with. Okay, so 3 little kind of fairly neat rows of seedlings there, not too closely spaced together, not overcrowded, and a nice, reasonably damp root zone for them to continue on growing. All those little leaves that you saw there, those are those seed leaves that I was talking about. Those are the cotyledons. So here we go, just sowing into a pot this time. So again, this filling it up, overfilling it, note the overfill, note the tamp down. Yeah, this time I'm sowing a much bigger seed. I'm sowing a broad bean this time. So there you go. I've just taken the the level off again, into with the dibber even, and move across. There's the broad bean seed. Into the hole that we've created with the dibber, cover over. You would then water, label, and pop it somewhere, either with a wee baggie on the top or a wee baggie on the bottom, whatever you needed. Okay, so pity the sound didn't work there, but there you go, you've got live sound.
Well done, Jill. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
Just going to signpost to that YouTube thing.
Yeah. Now then, yes, you can use a pencil instead of a dibber. You can also use your finger. So yeah, no, it doesn't have to be a plastic dibber is what I'm saying, yeah, so that's fine. Yes, you can water with a mister. Ideally, I would water from below. I would have them sitting on a plastic tray, on a bench tray, and then just put water in the bottom and actually let the compost soak up first and then sow your seeds. That's probably a better way to do it. So get your compost damp first and then sow your seeds. And then if you need to water after that, then do it from the bottom. But plant misters are very useful as well, absolutely. And definitely label things. Now, what Sharon is showing you there is our library that we have on our YouTube channel. So Thursday Grows has its own YouTube channel. In amongst that are playlists of all of the videos that we've done really since the start of the project. And there are the Go Get Gardening slots in there, which have got kind of weekly or monthly bits of advice on them for growing. There is also a workshop that I did at the start of the very first lockdown last year, March, April time last year. And it's called the How to Sow Seeds workshop. It's a 2-hour workshop which has been split into 4 half-hour sessions. And again, it goes into a bit more detail than what we're going into today. We're tending to sort of zoom through things a wee bit today. But if you go and look for the How to Sow Seeds workshop in the playlists, then the complete thing is there. 4 videos, a complete 2-hour workshop. So there's lots more information in there if you want to know a wee bit about that as well. And also various links on Facebook and that too. So if you're looking for resources and things, then you've got some resources there that you can use. Okay. Now, where are we? I think Sharon's going to do a little bit on companion planting. We had a question last week for companion planting. So let's move on. I shall try and monitor the chat. I'm going to hand you over to Sharon and put myself on mute.
Thanks, Jill. Much like last week, we'll be finishing in about 10 minutes, but Jill and I will probably knock around for another 10 minutes if people want to stay on, but also use the chat function to pop questions, or we've got a whole session at the end of the 5 weeks where we'll go into any questions or regular things that come up. So what is companion planting? Well, one of the best things I learned when I started gardening was about a really good gardener. A really good gardener told me that if you're a really good gardener, you're going to mimic what happens in nature. And in nature, there's no such thing as a monoculture. So there's a lot of diversity. There's a lot of working together. One of the things that Jill mentioned last week, one of the first things she mentioned was that not to work against nature, but to harness that energy and what's going on. And that's basically what I think companion planting is for me. It's planting 2 or more crop species together, and those crop species provide benefits to each other, and they will help improve things like your yield, things like your pest control, and manage your space better. So some basics of companion planting. So by planting 2 or more crops together, they might improve the health or flavour of a different crop. So a really good example of this is something like basil and peppers, or basil and tomatoes. It's said that by planting basil with those hot plants, it actually helps to improve the flavour of your peppers or tomatoes. But they also work really well together as their companions because they provide benefits to each other, where the basil will help to repel some common pests that you'll find on those plants, like aphids and spider mites and flies. So just by planting those two, either in your greenhouse, your polytunnel, or even in the same pot that you have on your balcony or in your kitchen, and keeping them nearby, the strong smell of the basil will help provide. Something to know about companion planting, it does require a bit of knowledge, a bit of research. I'm going to signpost you to some information at the end of this one, but not everything works well together, and there's different things that work and different benefits, and some things don't benefit each other. In fact, they make things more difficult. So it's worth being a bit mindful when you're planting of things that do work well together. An example of something, for example, that might interfere growth is like a parsley. If you planted parsley with lettuce, parsleys start off quite small and spindly looking, but they very quickly become quite big, bushy, dominant plants, and they can overcrowd lettuce. Lettuces are like the delicate ladies in your garden, so I wouldn't plant those together. However, things that go really well with lettuces, things like marigolds. So if you can see this picture I've got on the right, you can see a couple of beautiful lettuce plants in a row, and you can see some marigolds down at the bottom. Marigolds are absolutely brilliant to have dotted about your garden. I tend to put them in lots of different places on my borders, and that's because they attract things that eat aphids. So they're really good, like ladybirds and things like that. They're attracting beneficial insects into your garden. Things that I could also plant with my salads to repel is things like garlic or chive families. So you can see chives at the top. That's because they, again, repel the aphids. And even it said that you can plant mint next to your salads because the mints are more likely to be termed as like a sacrificial plant. So the things like the slugs can eat the mints and hopefully leave the lettuce alone. I would say slugs are very interesting in the garden because what they actually do, their function in nature is to eat like the weakest of the plants. So if you've got a big slug problem in your garden, I think it's indicating that your plants need more strength, and there's different things you can do. I can see 8 bits of chat coming up. So I've talked a bit about that. Another great one to plant together, things like, because they may, I've just been talking a bit about the insects and things, but things like dill and cabbages. So cabbage white butterfly, we've had a lot of cabbage white up in the community garden the last few years. The first year was worse than the second year. When a cabbage white, when the moth, the butterfly that lays the eggs of the cabbage white butterfly, it lands on your brassicas, your cabbages, things like this, lays its eggs, and what happens is those eggs hatch into caterpillars and they just eat their way through your crop, and you can lose a lot of your crop. But what's interesting to note is that that butterfly needs to land 3 times on the brassica leaf before it's got its confidence up to lay its eggs. So by doing things like companion planting, you can kind of confuse that predator, and you would use it as a part of a variety of tools in your box. I've still got the drum roll from Jill's thing last year. I kind of butchered her slideshow, and you can use your space more productively. See Jill up. So this is a really good example of companion planting, and they call it the 3 sisters, and it's one of the more famous ones. It's where you've got corn, so that's sweet corn, which is right in the middle, which is a tall sort of structural plant. You plant beans around the bottom, and you plant squash underneath that. And what happens is that you're planting vertically as well as horizontally. So the sweet corn is providing your structure. It provides something for your beans to climb up. The beans are a nitrogen fixing plant, which is really beneficial for future crops. And the squash provides a ground cover, because that's actually quite small squash at the moment, but as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it will just totally cover all that soil. So it will mean that you have to water less, and it will regulate the soil temperature more. This is a more common one probably in a hotter climate than we have in Caithness. You won't see me trying to grow squash outside. Well, actually squash is, but the corn, no. I did grow squash outside. There's lots of resources online. So I got that chart on the right, which I think is a really good chart if you want to do some beginning, but just pop into Google image search and do companion planting and find something like this, and it will very quickly come up with what are good companions and bad companions and some things that you would avoid. Myself, I tend to use companion planting a lot around my edges. So if you come up to the community gardens, you'll see that we've planted garlic around a huge amount of the edges of our beds. It's an absolutely brilliant companion plant in terms of deterring pests, things like that. It goes well with, as you can see on that chart, lots of species. But the picture on the left, I just thought was, for me, a really inspiring, small garden plot that someone's got, where you can see they've used their borders and their edges, but they're also doing small amounts of intercropping throughout the garden. And this is some pictures of my garden. I just thought I'd show you. It can work on quite a micro and macro scale. So I've actually got 2 different beds, but because of the proximity of the beds, there's onions on one bed, beans on the other bed. They're not sharing the soil, but the benefits of some of the plants are moving over to the other beds as well. And I've got a lot of my beds at home. I've got things like this is calendula at the front, which is a great companion plant. Heavy smelling herbs. That one with the starling. Jill, has my picture gone, or is that just me? Oh, well, that was the last slide anyway. But that one with the starling was my polytunnel at home, and you can just see that there's absolutely loads of plants in there. There was like courgettes, there was nasturtium, there was calendula. I had very little pests in my polytunnel last year, and I think that's largely due to the fact that I was companion planting.
Sorry, Sharon, I just realised I was still on mute there. Thank you. We've just had a couple of wee questions about basil. Mm-hmm. We had, going back to Ruan, who asked, thank you, Ruan, is it worth getting basil from a supermarket or growing your own? I've had mixed results with both, so I wondered if you had any more advice on that one for Ruan, please.
Yeah, I grow my own. I think it's easy enough. It can be, it's not a beginner's herb as such, and maybe what you can do is, they like hot, dry climates, does basil, and they can be a wee bit fussy, but they're quite strong and aromatic. And you could buy them from the supermarket, you know, the live plants, and you can pop them out. I've also done that in the past. They both work, but don't be disappointed. They can be a little bit, is it prima donna, I would say. I
would agree. Yeah, that's my experience from the supermarkets, is they do tend to overplant the herbs, don't they? They cram masses of them into a pot, and you of course you use them, and then because they're overcrowded, they just tend to die off after that point. So yeah, hot, dry climate in Caithness.
It is in my polytunnel. It is. I just have to not overwater. It's 10:44, so our time is up. But I think, Jill, are you happy to knock around for a few minutes if people want to?
I am indeed. Yeah, I've also just suddenly realised we didn't show anybody our seeds, so I got some seeds out just to show you. If you want to see that one there, if I put it, that's a pumpkin seed. Okay, and then just to show you some different sizes, I got these all prepared and then forgot to actually let you see them. Oh, this one's a bit harder. Hold on, just to show you the scale. Look at that one. That's a melon seed. If I bring the pumpkin one back, can you all see that okay? Now these are quite easy to handle, these ones, obviously, the pumpkins and the melons, and then you get down to poppy seeds, which, oh my goodness, they're just like a grain of sand in between your fingertips. Yeah, seeds come in various different shapes and sizes. So, any more questions?
I'm just going to do a little what's it called? It's the same link next week, guys. So just pop back onto the same link next week. Before next Saturday, I will send out an email to everybody again. I will put all the links on for all the different things and products and things that we talked about today. I will also, what will I do? I'll add the YouTube links, Jill.
yeah, YouTube.
And yeah, just to say thanks again. There's 25 people here, which is absolutely amazing. So feel free to knock around. I'm going to stop recording now. And yeah, feel free to use the chat to pop questions up, or if anything's come up for you, or give feedback as well. Okay, stopping recording.